Thousands more evacuated as wildfires burn across the interior.
I can see flames in the trees. I'm like, wow, that's close. We got to get going.
Our first look at the destruction from the worst BC fires in more than a decade.
Also tonight, evacuation centers filling, goods in short supply, and government assistance still not flowing.
Lonely, scary, stressed.
The uncertainty mounting as the fires grow larger.
And
feel how hot that is?
residents impacted by the wildfires documenting it live.
They've just issued an evacuation order.
The harrowing stories playing out in real time. Online.
This is CTV News.
Breaking news, the worst wildfire season in BC in more than a decade reaches a critical level. This dramatic video taken in the southern Caribou region, driving through the fire zone near 100 Mile House. 14,000 people have now been forced from their homes as flames rip through thousands of hectares. And this is a look right here from CTV's Chopper 9 at the destruction on the outskirts of Cache Creek. Mobile homes, businesses, and cars wiped out by the flames of the Ashcroft fire.
And these photos showing the heartbreak on the Ashcroft First Nation. Nothing but ruins left. This just one of more than 200 wildfires burning right now, and there is no relief in sight from the windy, hot weather. The situation rapidly changing by the hour.
Good evening. We have special coverage of the wildfires in BC's interior over the next hour. I'm Scott Roberts in Vancouver.
And I'm Mi Jung Lee at Thompsons River University in Kamloops, a community that has been overwhelmed by evacuees. Now here's the big picture at this hour. A provincial state of emergency remains in place. The province has pledged $100 million to help those evacuated. There are at least 218 burning right now around the province. Of those, 10 of those fires are in close proximity to communities. 1,000 firefighters are deployed to the fire lines, with another 300 from other provinces coming to help. And as we mentioned, 14,000 people forced to leave their homes. They're now waiting to see when they can go back home and if they have anything to go back home to. Evacuation orders are in effect for the town of 100 Mile House, including 108 Mile Ranch. The village of Cache Creek and properties in the surrounding areas are also affected. And to the south of there, some areas near the village of Ashcroft are in the evacuation zone.
CTV's Chopper 9 flew over the community of Boston Flats just within the past few hours, and it clearly shows the devastation. CTV's Norma Reed is following this in the Breaking News Center. Norma.
Well, this video has just landed into our newsroom, Scott, and these images, especially for evacuees who are watching tonight, they are hard to watch. Now, we understand that this was a mobile home park. Clearly, the fire tore right through this entire neighborhood near Boston Flats and destroyed nearly every single structure and building in its path. We can still see a couple of homes still standing here, but there are few of them. Cars are totally burnt. Everything in this small subdivision totally gone. Obviously, this is difficult for people to see. These are people's homes, their livelihood, their neighbors' homes, their community just vanished. So again, haunting images that have just come into our newsroom tonight. Chopper 9 flew over Boston Flats late today, Scott.
Crazy.
Okay, difficult but important pictures to see. Thank you very much, Norma.
They don't have a clear picture of how many homes and buildings have been destroyed. We do know the Ashcroft fire has wiped out whole neighborhoods. CTV's Penny Daflos is live in Boston Flats, where she's had a first-hand look at the devastation. Penny, how's it looking out there?
Mi Jung, a handful of roads have opened in this community, and this house stopped me in my tracks as we were driving past. Look at this. The house is still standing. Everything around it is completely black, and it's not just black. It's when you see the vegetation, you see the detail. It is just turned to complete dust. It is just completely pulverized, and so a lot of people are going to be looking at this house now, displaced residents, wondering if their homes are still standing as well. They are desperate for answers, and they're getting frustrated that some emergency officials are overwhelmed and unable to provide them. It is a shocking sight from the air, the aftermath of one of the province's biggest, most destructive fires this season. Crews continue to fight the Ashcroft fire, which has crossed a highway, split in two near Cache Creek, and now measures a mammoth 6,100 hectares. Displaced residents are at evacuation centers desperate for word.
The fire was just above our house.
Cody Schiffman and his young family fled the 100-mile fire late last night, arriving in Kamloops at 4 a.m.
They were a little scared because last year they watched a friend of ours' parents' house burn down.
The little ones are finding comfort from therapy dogs brought in to deal with the surge of evacuees.
For the kids, it's especially a good distraction because the lineups have been so long.
Frustrating. I think the biggest part is not only the lack of information, but miscommunication. The rumors come minute by minute.
Lance Owasuk is one of the dozens of evacuees sent to Sun Peak Ski Resort when the Cache Creek fire forced them from their homes Friday. They still have not registered here, and the $600 emergency assistance money announced yesterday is nowhere in sight.
A lot of us forgot wallets, purses. A lot of people are on fixed incomes, so let's face it, a lot of people are paycheck to paycheck.
We are moving as quickly as we can on it, and we certainly will just, as soon as we can, start moving out some of that assistance, we will do so.
Not the news these people want to hear as fires threaten to send more evacuees their way, straining the system even further. I am hearing that some people could start being allowed back to their homes as early as tomorrow. Officials are working very hard to make that happen, but when these people do start coming home to their communities, they're going to see that there is still a very active fire scene, smoky hills all around communities like this one here today. It is still looking pretty grim. Mi-jung.
Thank you, Penny. And there's a smoky haze in Kamloops here as well. Now, further north in the Caribou region, fires are burning all around Williams Lake. It has that city short on some supplies, and it has some people on edge. Now, Brianna Karsten-Smith is live in that community just outside of the city tonight. Brianna, what are the conditions like there right now?
Yeah, smoky here to me, Jung. We're just off Highway 97. The wind has calmed down after it was blowing extremely hard all day throughout the day here today. But take a look. You can clearly see how fire has decimated this land. There's spots still smoldering, and there's power lines that are down. BC Hydro has been on scene trying to restore some of that infrastructure over the last few hours here. Everyone here is hoping that the flames don't return. After strong winds, thick smoke, and swirling ash over the weekend, the city of Williams Lake is on high alert.
Basically hour by hour.
3 major fires are burning in the area, destroying thousands of hectares of land, an unknown number of structures, and forcing officials to scramble.
At this stage, we've been, Kamloops is not accepting anymore, and of course the road is closed from here to 100 Mile anyway, so our evacuation would be to Prince George.
Williams Lake is already packed with residents who fled from nearby towns. At Walmart, the meat and dairy departments are bare, and they're sold out of dust masks. Restaurants have had to close because employees evacuated, and gas stations have run dry.
I've never seen anything like it in my entire life.
Petro-Canada just gave Scott Nelson an extra 6,000 liters of gas in case the city is threatened.
We're a key area for the emergency dispatch, so when people get their yellow sheets and they're being evacuated, the province will give them up to $50 to get them to Prince George.
While some locals are prepared,
my wife worries. I don't worry that much.
Evacuees taking refuge here are exhausted.
Hopefully it'll clear up and we can go back home.
This couple has already had to run twice.
Lonely, scary. Stress, yeah. I couldn't find my sister, my mom.
Cooler temperatures overnight helped fire crews, but by morning, smoke was billowing again. It has them worried they'll be on the move again.
You never know where the fire is going to come on the highway, and then we're getting out of there, and you can just see the smoke and wonder if I'm going to have a home left.
So, Brianna, what can we expect for the conditions in the next 24 hours?
Well, Mi-jung, unfortunately, there is lightning in the forecast for this area, both tonight and into the next few days here. With firefighters already stretched thin, that is the last thing crews want. Mi-jung?
Tense days up there. Thank you, Brianna.
Let's bring in Ann Lou now in the Weather Center with more on the weather situation and the wind. Again, the big story today, Ann.
That's right, Scott. Peak winds today for Ashcroft and Williams Lake were close to 40 kilometers an hour from the northwest. They have slowly eased off. Williams Lake, the winds from the west right now, 10 kilometers an hour. From the north for 100 Mile House at 14 kilometers an hour. And for Ashcroft from the west, again at 7 kilometers an hour only. But we do have a special air quality statement in place from Prince George right down the Okanagan Valley because of all these forest fires. Lots of smoke in the air. So especially for those people who have breathing problems, it will be very difficult to be outside. Let's take a look at the next 3 days for Williams Lake. It will be hazy as we head through the overnight. Mainly sunny conditions for Tuesday. The winds do ease off. And then on Wednesday, a little bit of a reprieve, a chance of seeing some showers as you head through the afternoon. For 100 Mile House, unfortunately, things heat up as we head into Wednesday. Mainly sunny skies, and the winds do pick up to 14 kilometers an hour. And taking a look at Ashcroft, things stay very, very hot. 28 degrees tonight. It'll overnight temperatures 15 degrees only, and 31 degrees expected for Tuesday and Wednesday. So no reprieve whatsoever for them. Scott?
Okay, thanks very much, Ann.
You're welcome.
The wildfires have forced the closure of a number of highways. Let's give you that information right now. Highway 1 is closed in both directions between Ashcroft and Cache Creek. Highway 5A is closed in both directions at Princeton. Highway 97 also closed from Cache Creek to Clinton and from 100 Mile House to Lac-La-Hache. Meantime, Highway 99 is closed in both directions between Lillooet and Cache Creek. Of course, for complete information on all of the road closures, you can visit the Drive BC website. BC Wildfire Services have issued a campfire ban throughout northern BC, meaning campfires are now banned, really BC-wide, with the exception of Haida Gwaii. Campfires are not permitted in parks, beaches, campsites, and all Crown land. Wildfire Services says the ban is necessary because of the volume of fires already burning across the province and the continued forecast of hot, dry weather.
Federal Public Safety Minister Ralph Goodale says BC has made 2 requests to Ottawa, one for military assistance and one for access to the National Emergency Supplies Stockpile.
Like cots and blankets and the human comforts that are required when people are dislocated in an evacuation. There are now 3,000 cots and 3,000 blankets that have been delivered from the Public Health Agency through the stockpile.
Those amenities have already been delivered. Goodale says Environment Canada is also working with crews to track weather patterns, specifically the winds. He also thanked emergency workers for their efforts.
300 firefighters from Ontario, Saskatchewan, Alberta, and New Brunswick are heading to BC to help in the wildfire fight, and fire crews from the Lower Mainland are also ready to assist. Crews are on standby and able to be deployed if called upon. 140 firefighters have made themselves available, some with experience in the Forestry Service. Crews who are called upon would help at the Emergency Operations Center and provide some much-needed equipment.
But at this point, when we do arrive, it will be protection of building and structure at this time until we're asked to go on the line and work with the forestry firefighters and follow their direction.
Vancouver Fire also has crews who specialize in slides, flooding, and building collapses. Well, planes and helicopters, of course, play a vital role in attacking these fires from the air, but one big such weapon is not being used at the moment, and the owners of the Martin Mars bomber says the government has been ignoring offers of help. CTV's Binder Sugden has that story.
The Martin Mars is sometimes considered a firefighting icon. The water bomber can drop thousands of liters in a single drop, yet is currently idle.
The Mars will not be ready until the middle of August. We have ongoing maintenance going on.
Experts say even if it were ready to go, there are limitations.
Because it's so large, the airplane can only pick up from just over 100 different bodies of water in British Columbia.
The BC Wildfire Service says it's focused on more modern and cost-effective planes. The owner of the Martin Mars says newer technology is also on offer.
This is built in BC. We've exported this technology into Australia.
This video shows how it could lead to water bombing at night.
We have a command and control helicopter working with a firebombing helicopter, and we use laser technology and thermal imaging and night vision goggles combined as one unit.
Wayne Colson says this would work best in situations where urban homes are at risk. Still, safety remains a concern.
Our personal opinion is, like everything else, you have to have the proper standard operating procedures.
Anytime you fly an airplane at night, risk goes up, even with technology, night vision goggles and things like that. And again, we've lost airplanes fighting fire during broad daylight. Put us into a darkness situation, a night situation, that risk goes up even more.
The province didn't respond to our questions about the nighttime technology nor Colson's offer. For now, it, like the Martin Mars, will lie in wait. Binder Sudjan, CTV News, Victoria.
Much more coverage on the BC wildfires just ahead, including how you can help.
But first, to other local news tonight. A new video is emerging of the moments after a walkway collapsed in Steveston. Several people on the bridge at the time when it buckled and fell several feet into the water. The latest on the investigation into what may have caused it in just 60 seconds. Dramatic footage is being shared on social media from evacuees caught in the middle of the wildfires. Their stories playing out on social media tonight. That story still to come. And help coming from the people of Fort McMurray, how those who've experienced the devastating effects of Mother Nature firsthand are offering their assistance. That's also ahead on CTV News at 6. A scary experience for a Burnaby family out in Steveston this weekend. The ramp of a popular floating restaurant gave way, sending them sliding towards the water. As CTV's Maria Weisgarber reports, the cause of that collapse is now under investigation.
Some moments of panic for people at a popular floating restaurant in Steveston on Sunday when the ramp leading down to Pajo's Fish and Chips suddenly took a dive towards the water.
It was just one of the most horrifying experiences I've ever been in.
Tina Zanotto was near the top of the ramp with her husband and daughter when it collapsed.
All of a sudden we hear this huge cracking sound and we stopped in our tracks. And then before we could even think or do anything, we started sliding down.
That's the broken part there.
The family says when paramedics arrived, there was initially no way for them to access the restaurant. Zanotto was eventually helped back up to the boardwalk and taken to hospital. She says she's been left bruised and shaken. All three family members say they sustained minor injuries.
When was the last time they checked that ramp? Like, how can it buckle like that, or why did it buckle like that?
Nobody from the restaurant was available to speak to us on camera at the site, but CTV has been told the cause of this collapse is still under investigation, and there's no word yet on when this location could reopen. The restaurant has been at this site for more than 30 years. Pajo's has now issued a statement saying, "Our thoughts are with those injured and we wish them a speedy recovery. We want to thank our staff, patrons and local first responders for their quick response in assisting those who were on the ramp at the time."
It's terrible. Something like that should never happen.
The Zanotto family says they're just hoping it never happens again. Maria Weisgarber, CTV News, Richmond.
To breaking news right now, people living in Chilliwack are being warned about a high-risk sex offender. Norma Reed is following this in our breaking news center. Norma, this is somebody that has been in the news before.
Yes, Scott. The BC Corrections Branch says 42-year-old James Conway has just relocated to Chilliwack today. The news coming out late this afternoon. Now, people may remember Conway used to live in Mission. There were protests by many people upset he was living there. We just reached out to the mayor of Mission tonight. Randy Hawes is happy Conway has moved. James Conway is 6'4", 250 pounds, brown hair, blue eyes. His criminal past includes sexual assault and sexual interference of a person under 16. He has 25 conditions. Conway must stay at his residence 24 hours a day. He can't be in contact with anyone under 18. He's not allowed on public transit, and he's not allowed to wear any uniforms, including police, fire, nurse, or security guard uniforms. He's also not allowed to attend daycares, schools, pools, and community centers. If you see him breaking those rules, call police. Again, convicted sex offender James Conway, now living in Chilliwack. Scott.
Okay, thank you, Norma. Vancouver police are investigating a double homicide in the city's West End. Officers were called to an apartment on Morton Avenue at about 5 p.m. yesterday. They discovered the bodies of a 57-year-old woman and a 51-year-old man. Police say they have arrested a person of interest, and those involved are known to each other. Surrey's mayor is weighing in on the gangland shootout that injured an innocent person with a stray bullet. We're told the woman is recovering, but she's also scared and still hurting. As CTV's John Woodward reports, the mayor is now talking tough.
This truck was in flames by the time officers arrived, set on fire only moments after being on one side of a shootout on this residential Surrey street at 3:30 in the afternoon on Sunday.
The neighborhood was just kind of freaked out, and we didn't really know what happened. Some of us heard, gunshots. That was the report. And so I'm sure it was some kind of a drive-by.
I had 5 gunshots. Bang, 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 like one after the other.
The other car, a black Hyundai, took off, its bumper damaged from hitting this metal bollard.
The gunshots go off and then saw them fleeing that way, a black car.
It's not clear if anyone in that car was hit, but a woman sitting in this minivan was grazed by a stray bullet.
I can tell you that our investigators firmly believe that she's an unintended victim.
It's a nightmare scenario for Surrey Mayor Linda Hepner, who spoke to that victim today.
I can tell you that she was very frightened, as anyone would be.
The woman, who's visiting from Ontario, is out of hospital and expected to be okay. Surrey has 132 new officers, and shots fired calls are on track to be down 20% from last year. But an innocent victim makes this crime stand out.
When I see these vile people doing this kind of thing to the reputation of the city and to attack an innocent victim, I'm just so furious.
Hepner is asking for more funding to the province's gang unit, a measure supported by those who live here, who realize that any of them could have been hit or worse. John Woodward, CTV News, Surrey.
Then back to the wildfires in the interior now. Still ahead tonight, how you can help evacuees forced from their homes and how residents in Fort McMurray are assisting people in a situation they know all too well. Mi Jung.
And I'll have an interview with the province's chief fire information officer and his concern about how many of these fires are caused by people. So, Kevin, given the number of fires that have started recently, how many of those were caused by people?
Too many, quite frankly. Any human-caused fire is a preventable fire. A big driver of activity on Friday, when a lot of this came to a head, was lightning, certainly, especially in the central interior part of the province, the Caribou, Prince George area. But there were certainly quite a few human-caused fires in there as well.
What specifically are people doing to start these fires?
I mean, with these fires specifically, I think a lot of the causes are still undetermined at this point. They're under investigation. Generally speaking, though, with human-caused fires, it can be anything from industrial activity, in the backcountry, certainly abandoned campfires, discarded cigarettes. But there's things people don't think about, even when it's this hot and dry. Using an off-road vehicle like a quad or a dirt bike, the exhaust can be hot enough to start a fire. So we just want people to be exceptionally diligent when they're in the backcountry, just given how serious this situation is right now.
Airbnb is encouraging hosts to offer housing to those affected by the wildfires. It's part of a program that they have that does encourage community involvement during disasters. And so far, 25 homes are available free of charge. All hosts who participate are covered under Airbnb's host guarantee. Now, if you can't offer up your home, there are other ways you can help. Donations are always needed, and the Red Cross has set up a page. Thousands of dollars have already been donated since the page was set up. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau tweeted out the link to help spread the message. On top of what is donated to the Red Cross, the province is promising $100 million in relief funding for evacuees. For a link to the Red Cross donation page, you can head to our website. Now, residents in Fort McMurray understand what people in BC are going through because they went through the same thing just last year.
Absolutely, Mi Jung. They know that help is needed, and many spent the past few days gathering essentials for those displaced. CTV's Amanda Anderson has more.
And waterways where the devastation did happen last year, as you can see all around me.
A community still rebuilding after its own wildfire last year, now pausing to help others.
These are some of our donations.
Fort McMurray residents are collecting donations for those forced to flee their homes in BC.
I remember when we evacuated and seeing, other Canadians doing the same thing.
Coming up, a live interview with some of the thousands who've been forced to flee their homes.
But first, headway in the fight on terror. The Iraqi Prime Minister declares total victory over ISIS in what was a major stronghold for the terror group. And just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water,
wow, that person's totally right next to it, and it looks pretty big.
a rare attack off Miami Beach.
It went straight towards him and bit his leg.
Next on CTV News at 6.
This is CTV News.
British Columbia is not the only place dealing with raging wildfires. Parts of California are also facing intense flames, but crews are finally getting some help from Mother Nature. Cooler temperatures and warmer, rather calmer conditions are letting them make some progress against the wildfires at opposite ends of the state.
Imagine having to flee from your home with a little baby. I'm going to talk to his mom, Tashina, in just a few minutes. Scott?
The wildfires have forced thousands of British Columbians, some with young children, to flee their homes to safety. Mi Jung will talk to some of those parents at the evacuation center in Kamloops, and we'll have that right after the forecast with Ann Liu. And as we mentioned earlier in the broadcast, these hot conditions, these dry conditions continue in the interior, and of course the wind is a big story as well.
Yes, that is right, but things have diminished for Ashcroft, Williams Lake, and 100 Mile House. What we're watching right now for the southern interior, severe thunderstorm warnings in effect for Elk Valley as well as east and west Kootenay region through the evening into the overnight. And as you can see, some light scattered showers for the Williams Lake area, but they are going to move its way through and really not help that much for that region.
Okay, let's go to Mi Jung Lee now, who is at the evacuation center in Kamloops. Mi Jung.
That's right, Scott. An anxious day for hundreds of people who are registering here so that they can get the support they need when they're out of their homes. Now, one of those people who has had to flee their homes is Tashina Harkness with her little son, Austin, who's just 8 months old. Tashina had to leave Cache Creek Friday. Tashina, how much notice did you have? Take us back to Friday. How much time did you have?
About 5-10 minutes to get our things, get in the vehicle, and get on the road.
How are you feeling?
Lost. I mean, you got 5 minutes to take everything that's important to you, and I grabbed my child and went.
And Austin likes to grab this microphone.
Yes.
So you came and you didn't have much. What did you do to get the help you needed, and how has the community responded?
We went to check in at MacArthur Island, and the people around here are so generous. I needed a playpen. I put it on Facebook, and within 5 minutes, 40 or so responses.
Okay, thanks very much, Mi Jung. And still ahead tonight, documenting the escape to safety. Thousands of British Columbians flee the wildfires and their homes, sharing their journey on social media.
Oh, you can just feel it.
The first-hand accounts still ahead on CTV News at 6.
From Facebook to Instagram to Twitter, victims of the fires are sharing dramatic images of what they're seeing. And people are also turning to social media to offer words of support. Sinjin Alexander has that story.
Oh my God, dude.
We are seeing it through their eyes and hearing the raw, honest emotion.
Holy feel how hot that is?
As they rush from danger. Images captured by the very British Columbians who are living through all of this.
They have just issued an evacuation order for all of 100 Mile House. Friggin' terrifying.
They're giving us an idea of the uncertainty and fear, what it's like living under that orange glow.
It's actually really hard to breathe right now.
Tiny lenses attached to mobile phones catch fires just as they spark, often long before they've been reported.
This is bizarre. It's just a ridge of fire.
They also reveal the wonder and relief.
Oh, look at that.
When heroes finally arrive.
As you can see, like Kamloops, there's not a cloud in the sky, but that's all smoke. You can't even see the mountains that are right there.
Their posts tell us they've never seen anything like this. They feel surrounded and a little scared that at any moment they too will have to pack up and leave. Pictures capturing perfectly as the fire spreads rapidly. They are still watching, wondering what may come. Sinjin Alexander, CTV News, Vancouver.
incredible images. Now, an estimated 14,000 British Columbians have been forced from their homes as the province's wildfire situation reaches a crisis that hasn't been seen in years.
Yeah, Mi Jung is still ahead. We will go back to live coverage near Williams Lake, one of the community's hardest hit. Stay with us. Special coverage of the BC wildfires continues right after this.
Our breaking news continues of the BC wildfire situation. I'm at Thompson Rivers University in Kamloops, which has become a hub for hundreds of evacuees in the Caribou region. Brianna Karsten-Smith is reporting live now from Williams Lake. It's a tense situation there, Brianna, with 3 fires near that community. Bring us up to speed. What's happening there?
Well, we've got some breaking news from here in Williams Lake, Mi Jung, and that is that we are now under evacuation alert. The entire city of Williams Lake now under evacuation alert. That does not mean that people need to leave immediately. That's when an order is called. Right now, we're just under an alert, which means that people need to prepare. They need to have ID, full tanks of gas, and a bag packed, ready to go. In fact, we've already seen RCMP officers preparing, flying down Highway 97 towards Williams Lake. We've also seen rescue crews fly in, as well as helicopters flying overhead.
Thank you, Brianna. Now let's go back to Scott and Ann. As Brianna mentioned, weather playing such a crucial role in these fires, more than 200 fires across the province. What is the latest for the situation in the Williams Lake area?
Well, the winds have picked up right now as we take a look at that. We are seeing gusts right now at Williams Lake at 13 kilometers an hour, 100-mile house from the north. They're gusting at 22 kilometers an hour, and even stronger for Ashcroft from the southwest at 28 kilometers an hour. Chance of thunder showers through the central interior area. There is a severe thunderstorm warning in place for the Elk Valley area, but tomorrow for us across Metro Vancouver, more sunshine on the way, high UV index as well.
Okay, certainly be keeping a very close eye on the weather tonight and tomorrow. Thanks very much, Ann.